it's Amy from moonmindology.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you like my content. So today I am looking at Gavin Newsom. I had to make sure that we definitely had the right birth time for him, and it is an AA rated chart. So why was I so astounded? Look at the ascendant. It's exactly conjunct Pluto. This flavours who he is, and he will be very intense. And we know full well people either love him or they hate him. He's the Marmite man. And he will love being in power, and he's constantly looking for ways to be in control or to hold power over other people. I'd say he's a very complex individual, but he may also have the tendency to be quite explosive by nature. So don't forget, if you want a reading with me, go to moonmindology.com. So his ascendant is in Leo, which means that the chart ruler is the sun, and the ruler of the first is in the second, and money is the most important thing to him. And this is especially driven home by Jupiter, Venus and Pluto all being in his first house. So Pluto is very significant, and it is exactly conjunct Pluto. So he's a very intense person, and there's a real essence of love me, hate me situation going on, as I've said. And there's incredible power. So he could even become a president someday or hold a very important position. He most likely would have had quite a pleasant childhood, but he can be quite indulgent. He's good with words, and he can say all the right things to get ahead, and this is really good for making large amounts of money. But there can be some kind of security problems during childhood, and maybe even controlling parents. And despite there being a lot of benefics here in this position, there is a real focus on material things. He is intelligent, he's talented, and he's lucky, and he was always destined to be propelled to new heights of success. And there can be some problems with sickness, reoccurring accidents, and a problematic childhood as well. His identity is all about his career, and he measures his worth, his personal worth, by how successful he is. And he has a strong sense of purpose, and this is indicative of a leader as well, a very wealthy one. The Sun and Uranus is in the second house, so money is very important to him, and it's at the core of his security. And there can be problems during early life, maybe with his father, and there could have been issues that shook his sense of security as a young man. But there can also have been sudden changes that were out of his control that left a real deep impact. And there is a distance from his father as well, which could be emotional or physical. So there's a tendency towards mistruths and offensive language, as well as there is a malefic in the house of the mouth and speech. So he could change his stories suddenly or say the opposite things at a drop of a hat. And there could be problems with his teeth as well, which may come on suddenly. And there can also be an unusual speech pattern, but he's great at telling stories and making things up. K2, Neptune and Mercury, it's in the third, and I get a real journalistic vibe going on here, and there's such a strong ability to communicate. He has a real talent in self-expression, and I can see his ability in sales and business. And I think he started working with businesses. I think it was a wine business, and he's an avid traveller, and he's very talented in sales. Mercury is quite afflicted being next to K2, and this can give him somewhat of a nervous disposition. So he can be passive aggressive and have an unusual communication style, especially with Neptune here as well. He speaks in riddles, but somehow he can convince people to do things. It may have a hypnotic-like sense to it. He can also conceal his true feelings, and he may second guess his own decisions and needs. And he relies on other people to help him, as he's got a lot of insecurity issues. He's very creative though, so his mind probably works differently, and especially as he has K2 in the third, which can sometimes be dyslexia, and as far as I'm aware, he has that. He's tenacious, courageous, and K2 here can make somebody very brave as well, and he's constantly looking for answers to life's questions. So he may enjoy photography, and there can be investments in fine things like art. So Mars is in the 4th. This is really great for attaining property, land, cars and leadership positions. And it's of course a sure sign that he didn't really get on well with his mother, and as there is a aspect to the 7th house, there can be problems in relationships as well as a lot of fighting as well. There's no affliction to the 4th house though, so this is quite strong. And there is a perfect square between Pluto and his ascendant, as well as Mars, which is really, really powerful, but it can sometimes be violent as well. He's a power seeker, and he doesn't get angry as he has good control of his temper, and he doesn't act irrationally. He's calculated, he's planned, and you know, that combination, he can launch a destroy and conquer kind of thing. My opinion, he's really dangerous as a leader, but hey ho. He's interested in technology and mechanics in some way as well. And he can also be interested in vehicles. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a lot of them. And he most likely hasn't really moved far away from where he was born, as he has a deep connection to his home. The moon is in the 5th, and he's very intelligent, and he likes to teach and encourage others. He has a good know-how for fun, and you know, he likes to spend time with other people. There's a love for children, and he may be creative. I don't know whether he plays a musical instrument, but there can be problems with children, so they can be erratic, or they can have problems with mood swings. His investments will be pretty good, and he'll be very good at gambling as well. So I would hazard a guess that, seeing as I can't see a significant pointer towards his wealth, I would say he's most likely attained through his wealth through who he knows, as well as through gambling money as well. There can be problems with children, but his chart is a mismatch of contradiction as well. So I bet the relationship will start to become quite problematic with his children at some point, as there is a link to the 12th house. And the moon is just really unstable. Saturn is in his 8th, which is good for longevity. And that's what it says in the textbooks, but that's not always the case that I found. But these people, you know, they use their energy very wisely, and there can be issues with teeth, as there's an affliction to the 2nd house as well. And with his chart, Saturn is aspecting the houses of money, romance, children and career. So there's problems with all of these things. So there can be taxation issues as well. Although a man in this position, I guarantee that his tax issues aren't related to him being a victim, I would say. There can be problems with genetic illness, accidents, chronic disease, and there could be surgeries, as well as gains through insurance or pensions. And that could come through a partner as well. But you know, there can be problems in the workplace that lead to a scandal, and there can be problems with untrustworthy partners as well. There can be some material gains. There can be some marital issues as well as divorce, but there can be a lot of money made from divorce or the death of a partner. Rahu is in the 9th, and this is really good for an interest in foreign culture, religion, and philosophy, not for softly, because there's an interest in unusual religions as well, because Rahu is quite rebellious. Teachers and the father can be extreme or even weird, which is something that he will need to overcome in this life. And there can be an addiction to learning, and you know, he'll probably invest a lot of money into his education, and sometimes people with this placement just learn for fun. There's a mutual aspect between Jupiter and Rahu, and this can give problems with teachers, as he may prefer to be self-taught as well in areas, and there's a tendency towards unconventional beliefs, as well as, you know, potentially having quite a rebellious nature. And as we're looking at the 9th and the 1st linked together, you know, there's certainly a link to legislation, and he could pass some really odd laws. I don't know whether he's done that in California. I don't know enough about what's going on over there. So he's currently in the grand cycle of Jupiter and the sub-cycle of Venus, and I would hazard a guess that he is going to be pretty strong until 2030. But in August 2024, he's going to move into the sub-cycle of the Sun, and this could pose some problems for him related to money, security, and speech. But overall, I think he's going to be quite all right for the rest of these sub-cycles. I think the real problem's going to move in when he comes into the Saturn cycle, as Saturn lives in the 8th house of scandal and divorce, and it rules the 6th and 7th houses. So we could have a divorce, there could be illness, accidents, and problems in the workplace that may include scandals. So he came into power as the mayor of San Francisco in 2004, and he was in the cycle of Rahu, and Rahu is in the 9th, and it's been quite good. It's given him a lot of power, and then K2 isn't so great, as he ran for the governor of California and lost during that time, and then he tried again when he was no longer in the K2 cycle, and that was when he flourished. Then again, during the subdasha of Saturn, he had the recall, and unfortunately for those who campaigned, he moved into the subdasha of Mercury, which was more secure from him, and he won. So then again in 2022, he was in Venus, and this has been really strong for him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he, I don't know, became a president in 2028. It's just a hunch, but you know, he would be in the cycle of Jupiter and the sub-cycle of Rahu, and he'd be pretty unstoppable during this time. But I don't think a presidency for him would go very well, although I may be wrong on that one. He would have to have some kind of unimpressive competition to win, because I don't think his D10 is quite strong enough. But he seems to be quite lucky, and with Pluto in the first, he's never going to stop chasing for more and more power. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye!